until we embrace challenge, we will never grow. So our growth always comes in those hardest moments. And I joke around a lot. So I became a vice president at a very young age. And I would say, I think I got this job because I'm just the only one that didn't quit. And I've worked with so many people, hundreds and hundreds of trainers, hundreds of managers. And I think there's something around the fact that the people that have the grit, the confidence, and the self-worth to just see those challenging times through. Every one of those turning points of challenge where I did want to quit and I'd go home crying and I chose not to because I believed that I deserved and I wanted to show myself that I'm worth pushing through. I would make it to the other side and then that door would open.
This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, hosted by Chrissy Van. Together, we're uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. On today's episode, we welcome Nastasia, the Vice President of Fitness Services at Fitness World Canada. Nastasia's story exemplifies what we often hear from industry executives on the ATFW podcast, a deep-rooted passion and belief in our work reflected throughout her life. Nastasia was a lifelong athlete, but faced unhealthy habits in college. Diagnosed as pre-diabetic in her early 20s, she knew she had to make a change. Despite her doctor pushing medication, Nastasia chose diet and exercise as her first line of defense. Overcoming Gymtimidation, a personal trainer helped her make significant progress. This sparked her passion for the industry's power to change people's lives. Since then, she has climbed the ranks over her 16-year career. Nastasia has trained, developed, and promoted over 500 personal trainers, 65 field-level managers, and 10 above-club managers. Her teams consistently achieve above-average retention rates for members and clients and high margins in personal training. She also trained Olympic athletes for the London 2012 Games and was named an IRSA Rising Star in 2017. Beyond her professional accomplishments, Nastasia shares how her battle with breast cancer changed her leadership style and outlook on life. Throughout the episode, she offers valuable advice for helping the new generation of trainers and managers excel in the fitness industry. Before we get to it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry thought leaders and influencers. I'm your host, Chrissy Van, and this is ATFW. I am so happy to have you, Nastasia, especially because we're in studio, which I don't always get the chance to do. So first of all, thank you so much for joining me on All Things Fitness and Wellness.
Thank you for having me.
You have had an incredible tenure in the fitness industry. I love that you're a woman in leadership. And the thing about what you do is you really have a pulse on what is happening on the ground. So we're going to be getting a really good temperature check. But I'm curious to know, how did you even get involved in the fitness industry in the first place?
Oh my gosh, I don't think we've ever actually shared
this
story.
I'm learning as we go
so
here.
Here we go. I am a client turned fitness employee.
Yes.
So I love my story because it keeps me grounded and rooted in my day-to-day. I went to university and I gained the freshman 15 plus more. And after I finished school, I was like really lost in my own fitness. I had grown up an athlete. I was always in gymnastics and sports. And so then when I went to school and I didn't have those organized sports anymore, I kind of like didn't know how to navigate my way in like my own health and fitness. And it went very sideways, all the way to the point where I was diagnosed as a pre-diabetic right after I finished school at the age of 21.
How scary was that to get that news at 21?
I mean, it was very shocking. And coming from somebody who could just kind of eat whatever I wanted and I was always in shape to being like not just outwardly unhealthy, but inwardly unhealthy. And it was a big shock. So I started on a pre-diabetic medicine called metformin. And the doctor said, it's a magic pill. You're going to lose all the weight and all your hormones will regulate. Give it 3 months. Well, truth is it didn't happen that way. And so while my hormones got a little bit better, my weight wasn't stabilizing and my confidence was like totally shot. And so I go back to the doctor and he said, your only last resort is diet and exercise.
I love, like, the only thing that I point out about that is that it was medication first, and then the last resort is diet and exercise.
Yeah, definitely wasn't mentioned in the beginning. And I said, okay, well, like at this point, I guess I have no choice. So I joined the gym. And I took the journey of what our regular gym members take. And I share this story with every new personal trainer that joins our club. I didn't know what to do. I was highly intimidated. I had driven around that parking lot like literally probably 10 times before I actually went inside. Luckily, the people were so kind, set me up with a membership, and where did I go? To the treadmill. Like, I didn't know how to do anything. So I thought, well, I can probably manage like turning the start button on and walking. And so my evolution as a member was the treadmill. And then I upgraded to where? The elliptical. And then from the elliptical, I went like front row elliptical. And I went like an hour and a half and nothing was changing in my body. And I thought, is this a scam? Like, why? I'm paying to be here and I'm spending like 6 days a week and nothing is changing. So I kind of like looked over to the weight area, but at that time it was just all guys. Mm-hmm. And there was one female trainer in this bright red shirt. So the only females that were over there were with this trainer girl. And I thought, oh man, she is way too beautiful and way too expensive. So I went into the group fitness room and I fell in love with group fitness. I became one of those group fitness freaks, front row, every single class, lining up. I loved it. But then again, 3 months later, still nothing was changing in my body. So finally I took the plunge and I met with that trainer. Her name was Sophia, and she sat me down. She did a wonderful job of making me feel comfortable. She explained the program and I just said, okay, I'm going to trust it. Like, what else am I going to do? It's the only part of the gym I hadn't been in. And the only part that I felt, okay, well, maybe she could be, again, my last resort for help. And I got immediate results with her and she literally changed my life. I have no idea if she's still in the industry. And she was my inspiration. So once I changed my eating habits, she taught me all about proper macronutrient tracking. We implemented supplements, our weight training program 3 days a week. She let me keep taking my group classes. Like, I just literally transformed as a human. And about a year after that, I thought, I don't want to be sitting at a desk. Like, I'm not helping anyone. I want to be her. And then I went and got certified and here we are.
Oh, I love that so much. Number one, it just speaks to the impact that people in this industry have. And it's something we talk about here so much. So you're like, I don't even know if she still is in the field. But at the end of the day, you're one life that your entire course of your future, your existence, career catapulted because of this woman. So Sophia, if you're out there.
Oh my gosh, if she's listening.
Right? I'm curious, when you did all those steps, do you remember when you went back to your doctor?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. So I went back and everything had like reversed. So I had a condition called PCOS, and it's very rare for PCOS to reverse. Like, once you have it, you kind of have it. And it's a very difficult thing to mitigate, which is why they use the medication.
Is that PCOS, like polycystic ovary syndrome?
Yeah, exactly. And so after my blood work had flipped, he was like, oh my gosh, like, I've never actually seen this. They sent me to the University of Colorado into the research department, and then they tracked me for 10 years. And they said, okay, let's continue on the program. And I was still on that metformin. And then part of the project was getting off the metformin.
Right.
And so after, I think it was about 10 years of being on the medicine, they said, okay, like, we have no relapses. I had made a huge lifestyle change. We tailored off the medicine, and knock on wood, like, I've never gone back. I've just maintained the lifestyle. And they were like, okay. I said, well, the medicine didn't do shit. Like, we established that for the first like 3 to 6 months. It really was a diet and exercise.
Yeah. You're like, maybe you don't need the 10-year research project. Maybe you should just prescribe that first. Just throwing it out there.
So it was like a human test. And obviously I was like really scared to get off the medication because it was like such a sudden onset that I thought, at any point could it reverse, but we've been good. So
incredible. Yeah. Obviously you didn't just stop at the idea. I've seen this trainer. Sophia's the inspiration and I want to become. You have leveled up through the industry, and I know you've kind of woven in and out of it. So talk to me a little bit about the career progression and how that all came to be.
Yeah. So starting off, when I decided I wanted to work in the industry and become a personal trainer, I literally thought I'd be doing this for a year for a fun job. I even told my parents, like, hey, I'm going to go work at the gym. They were so pissed. Like, what did we pay for a 4-year degree? I'm like, hold on.
Where did they see you going before that?
Oh, just like business.
Gotcha.
Business. And I said, let me just give it a shot for a year. Like, I'm going to do it for a year. Let me go have fun, and then I'll go back to like the real world. And in my first year working as a trainer, I made substantially more money than in my real job working with Hilton. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to go back. Like, this is amazing. But I never ever thought that there would be a career progression. So talking to you and talking to even all of our new trainers that we onboard and all of our team members, if you want this to be something where you can learn and grow in life, in business, and in the craft, like, it's such an incredible industry. I just never thought that from the beginning. I thought it was kind of a joke. Like, you go work in a gym, oh, these people that run a gym, whatever. It's not a real job.
Totally.
It's absolutely a real job and more. And so as I started progressing my career, I really put myself out there to meet people. And then I started really quickly understanding people running these industries are brilliant business operators. And for me, first, like, I love the business side of things. Secondly, I love helping people. Third, I love like the science of what we do, right? And so once I saw that, wow, this is like a legit business, and there's major operations, and there's tactics, and there's P&Ls, and there's things that I can learn and grow in business, just in this industry, instead of maybe doing it with hotels or banks or something more traditional, I was like all in. And so my progression went from first mastering, well, no, we should use that word lightly. I don't think you ever master. Becoming really good and the best at what I was doing in the personal training job. And I'm so happy that I started from the ground up, because I don't think I'd be the leader I am today without being able to relate and share these stories. And while I had experience in management and leadership, I'm so happy that the district manager made me start at the bottom, because I truly believe, like, until you've experienced doing that job, how can you actually coach it authentically? And so now the things that I share and the processes that I come up with are literally from experience. And after I became one of the top producing trainers in the state and in our location at the time with 24-hour fitness, I was just kind of, the door started opening, honestly, Chrissy. And I said, okay, I'm just going to walk through. And so anytime a door would open, I would just jump at the opportunity. I wouldn't really hesitate or ask questions. I would say most of my career, I've been promoted way before I should have been, or way before I was ready. But really in life, at the end of the day, are you really ever ready? And so I think that just my ability to like absorb information and be really receptive and just take those risks, like, doors kept opening and I kept walking through them. Before I knew it, I'd worked in every position in the club. So I've done operations and sales and general manager, fitness manager. I've done everything to really understand, which then on the post side of my career, more as an executive, has allowed me to grow again really quick. So that has been kind of the progression of my career. I did leave the industry for a while, and I left due to getting a medical diagnosis that kind of put me on pause. And we can get into that if you would like, but ultimately it was a moment in time for me that I really had to sit down and reevaluate. And it was less about leaving the industry and more about refinding myself.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, share as much as you'd like. But number one, I want to point out with what you said there, because I think from what I know of you, we probably subscribe similarly, that when something is aligned and meant for you, how those doors do open, and really you just need to say yes to them. But that yes can be really hard when all of a sudden these opportunities are happening for you. It's one thing to be like, okay, it was presented, but to have the courage to be like, I don't feel ready, but I'm going to say yes. I just want to acknowledge that's a big thing. And it's actually where a lot of people stop or get in their own way, and look from you not getting in your own way where it took you. But that pause, when you talk about finding deep meaning, because this is the thing in life, we, especially in this industry, I think so many people are focused on personal growth. You can't not have that mindset, especially when you're working amongst trainers and ultimately helping other human beings discover that for themselves. But where the most elements of that happen are from the things that sideline, blindside, we didn't expect to come down the pipeline. Yeah. So what was it that you were faced with that basically had to put the proverbial brakes on not just your career, but a full assessment of where am I in life and what do I want?
Yeah. So let me take you back to that. We're going to be nearing now, in August will be 5 years ago. Wow. So I had worked in the industry for over a decade, very healthy and fit and on all my .fit supplements and tracking my food and exercising 6 days a week. So in my 30s, my aesthetics and what you looked at on the outside was the definition of health. And I was doing all the things right. Growing my career, really engaged in my own personal fitness and wellness. And then I got diagnosed with breast cancer. It was shortly, a month after my 37th birthday, totally out of nowhere.
I just pause, and if you don't mind me asking, because I think as women to women, especially, this is important to highlight. What was it? Because especially in that age group, and we know it's a very real thing and a large statistic of women that face it in that age group, but how did you come to attention that something wasn't quite right?
I would have, literally by an angel. So I did not feel sick. Nothing was presenting itself, and I literally had an itch and I scratched myself and then I felt it. So there was nothing lending to me even considering that something was wrong.
Just you paying attention.
It just was literally a grace of God.
Wow.
That I found it. So, and I went to the doctor right away, which is the right thing to do. So these scary moments can be mitigated and I have a nice success story, but if anything ever feels off in your body, avoiding to not address the issue will make it worse in the long term.
Yeah, and fear can make people do that because you're I don't know that I want to know the answer.
Totally.
Right?
It's very natural. It's a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
So I get diagnosed and I have an aggressive, rare form of breast cancer out of nowhere and went straight into treatment. And so at that point, it was all I had the capacity to do was deal with this diagnosis. And then you're getting moved through the system so quickly, thankfully.
But overwhelming.
Yeah. Very, very, very you're drinking through a fire hose and you have to put your entire trust in people you don't know.
Right.
And your doctors have to put their entire talent into somebody they don't know. And so it's this, it was an experience that was everything else had to stop just so I could deal with this. There was no more capacity. There wasn't even capacity enough to deal with it.
Of course.
Let alone doing other things. And because of the timing of how things happened, for a long time, I linked a lot of my illness to wherever I was physically in that time. And so that then links also to fitness and my job and, big question in my mind of how was I living so well and how did this happen to me, right? So I got through surgery and chemotherapy and then coming on the other side of it, an interesting thing as a patient that I experienced, for the outside world, when it's done, it's done. Your caregiver, your friends, your family, you finish your treatment and it's okay, that was a shitty 6 months and now it's over. Just go be normal.
Right.
But for the patient, what happens is your security blanket is gone. And while the medicine and the surgeries make you feel horrible, it's safe. And all of a sudden, your friends have exited. Everybody from the outside says, you're good to go, celebrating you. And you're in a position that you no longer see the doctor as often. You're not getting the medicine. Your social support system thinks you're good.
Oh, and mentally, that must be so hard to rectify.
And now you're on your own and you're holy shit, I don't recognize myself. Literally looking at yourself. Yeah. And then also from an emotional and a security standpoint, all those things that brought you comfort and security, are just gone. And so for me, I wasn't at a point where I could even think about entertaining the thought of coming back to the industry until I healed myself. And then that journey has been such a wonderful, difficult, but wonderful journey, I think. And now where I'm at in my 40s is much more of living in gratitude, a lot more calmness, a lot more trust that the path will go how it should go. And like a lot of these learnings that I was forced to have because of the illness, I really loved. And so now my life is ran, and the way I am as a leader, I think, is very different because of that experience. And I don't know, I just had a point where I was like, I really miss it and I'm ready to come back. But this time, I think that I can offer something even better and a different version of me that can add more value to our organization and to the youth and people that we're bringing up because of my experience. So definitely a happy ending.
Well, and yeah, I like that you highlight as well, not just growth for yourself, but your leadership style within that transforming so greatly, because the thing we know when stuff like this happens in life, they can be tools that either can give you a lot of trauma from it, which obviously they do, and post-traumatic stress, but nobody really talks as much about that personal growth syndrome that comes with it if you choose it.
Yeah.
And so it really sounds not to negate any of the very real deep emotions that you've had to work through and I'm sure continue to go through. But you've decided to squeeze the juice out of them and get the lessons. And then you're not just using, it's not self-serving because you're in an industry where you're like, I get to actually instill this in other people. And they don't have to necessarily have walked this wild fucking path that I had to get here.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about where you landed when you did make the return and what your role was shaped as at that point.
Yeah. So I'm back at Fitness World now. And I'm the vice president of fitness services. So I oversee our entire personal training department, which is composed of 175 personal trainers, 16 fitness managers, and then I also oversee our group fitness programming for all the clubs, and then our internal and external education program. So very similar to what I was doing prior, but again, in a capacity that for me is much different in the sense of, you know, what value do I want to bring? How do I want to build my team? And what experience do I want my team to have? And then, of course, the foundational systems, processes, behaviors are, you know, kind of, I know them like the back of my hand. And we're always innovating and growing on that foundation. But coming in now as a person that's had the previous experience, has had that kind of wellness lifestyle from the outside, but also now the wellness lifestyle from the inside, maybe that I was missing prior. And I think some of that also just comes with time, experience, and wisdom, right? And you can't rush time. And you also can't accelerate experience. Like, I think the best thing that we can do as humans is take things as it comes and look at how we can learn and grow from any opportunity. And until we embrace challenge, like, we will never grow. So our growth always comes in those hardest moments. And I joke around a lot. So I became a vice president at a very young age. And I would say, I think I got this job because I'm just the only one that didn't quit.
Yeah.
And I mean,
there's something
it's
to be
kind
said
of true.
for that, though.
And so I think now that I see, and I've worked with so many people, hundreds and hundreds of trainers, hundreds of managers. And I think there's something around the fact that the people that have the grit, the confidence, and the self-worth to just see those challenging times through. And it really did start with my career. And when we make the joke about I made it here just because I wasn't the one that quit, but that also means I was able to get to the top of the mountain. And at every one of those turning points of challenge where I did want to quit and I'd go home crying, and I chose not to because I believed that I deserved and I wanted to show myself that I'm worth pushing through. I would make it to the other side, and then that door would open. And then we do the same thing again and make it to the other side, and the door would open. And I bring this up because that's how I got through my diagnosis. And so there's two things for fitness and my career that transfer in life. And number one is just like the grit not to quit. Because when you are faced with a diagnosis, like, you literally have no fucking choice. Yeah. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You have no choice. And so when you are up against a corner with literally no choice, when you dig deep, the actual resilience that you have inside is unlimited. Mm-hmm. We do ourselves a disservice because we quit before we dig into that. But if you were up against a corner you literally wouldn't fucking quit. If it was life or death, you wouldn't quit. Okay. So why do we do that in life, in our careers? So that's number one. And the second thing is that don't wait to get sick to be healthy.
Yeah.
So whether you're 30, 60, 90, it doesn't matter. My doctor brought up a great point. She said, the medicine I'm giving you is the same exact medicine that I'm giving a 6-year-old. Because I would say, how do I feel so shitty? Like, I'm young and I'm healthy. And she's like, the medicine's the medicine. Like, you're all going to feel equally crappy. I felt so crappy. I couldn't imagine if I was out of shape, if I didn't have the health habits and the eating habits that I did, like literally, how would I have gotten through? And so you don't want to wait until you're sick to learn how to be healthy. The whole purpose of what we do as an industry, inevitably, we're all going to have our challenges. You're not going to get out of this life without challenge because it is a rite of passage, and you're not going to gain your true highest self without those challenges and things happening to you, okay? Don't wait until that comes to learn these things.
Yes.
Teach yourself these things along the way. And in my 30s, I taught myself these things, but I wasn't teaching it with this purpose, right? But then look how it served me. And people are like, how did you get through? How are you on the other side? I'm like, well, this is how. So if I hadn't learned those things, like the grit not to quit and living a healthy lifestyle prior to getting sick, I don't know that I would be sitting here having the same conversation with you. So for me, so much of what we do in this industry is twofold on that, a physical and a mental wellness, to be able then to handle these challenges and adversity, to get on the other side and to be able to grow from it, rather than having the attitude of, I'm just going to quit, or it's going to take me one of two ways, right? Because it wasn't a guarantee that I was going to go this way. So now in my leadership, I really bring these things to the table. And that's where I really want to grow our next generation of leaders of like, it's okay to have challenge. Just sit in the shit. Like, sit in the shit.
And humans
You're
always
gonna
want to
get
just
through it.
escape the shit.
Yeah.
And that you're so
You're
right. They
gonna get
rob
through
themselves
it.
from everything because they're like, this is uncomfortable. This is uncertain. I don't want to be here. So I'm going to go over here where it feels nice and safe. And then they miss out on everything that could have been on the other side.
Right. And then what do? Just live in complacency and live in mediocrity and live in that, just this like comfortable life that like, who are you helping and how are you excelling to push forward for yourself, which then as a consequence pushes forward those around you and your community and all of these great things. But if we all just want to sit in our comfort and always run away from when it's hard, what are you actually going to do in life when for real something is hard? Mm-hmm. You know, because I think now looking back, and that's the temperament I bring now to my leadership, like I just don't freak out. I don't freak out about things because the most freaking out thing happened to me. Right. And I was allowed to freak out about that.
Absolutely.
But until that, like nothing else is going to, like, we got it. We'll be fine. We can work through it. Just be patient and have your own self-worth enough to give yourself the gift of allowing yourself to really shine and to be the best that you can be. Like, don't sell yourself short. So I think in my transformation, that's a lot of what I advocate for and where I want to take my team to say, hey, these things that we think are a huge deal, we got it. And let's not quit when it gets uncomfortable, because at some point it will become comfortable and you'll be like, I'm so glad that I stuck to it. I think about, workouts. Workouts are a great metaphor for life.
Yes.
And we say, imagine if you cut your rep short 2 or 3 every single set of every single day. You'd be 20 to 30% less results over a span of time. And we don't do that, right? We push to discomfort. So if you're pressing weight, you're doing drop sets, whatever your training program is, like, do you sell yourself short in that? Like, as an industry, we don't. So then take those same, and the growth is slow. So we see all these memes about, there was an Instagram reel that said, I dieted for 1 day and I'm waiting for the scale to go down. And it's like a dog like bouncing on the scale, like pissed at the scale that the scale hasn't moved in a day. And so in fitness, we know that consistency is more important than like overperformance every day.
Yes.
We know that the results are going to come with a compilation of small results happening consistently, right? and you continue doing those even without seeing a physical result because you're trusting the process that it's going to work. And then all of a sudden, bam, what happens? 3 months in, 4 months in, you're like, holy shit, I went from this to this. But if you were watching that every day and being critical of not getting results every day, then you would have never made it to that 4 months. Those reps, if you quit, you're going to get 30% less better results. So everything we do in the gym literally is a metaphor for life. So if I get a leader that is having a challenge one day or has done the process for a whole week straight and they're not seeing the result, I'm like, call me in 4 months. Call me in 90 days. And they're like, are you kidding me? 90 days I have to do this and the needle may not move? I'm like, yeah. And then you're going to watch it soar. You just have to trust the process like you do in your workouts. So it's been a really beautiful transformation for me. And I've thoroughly enjoyed being back, mostly, I think, because I just present myself much differently now.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, because you're not the same person that walked through that process initially. And I really love how you do highlight the fact that you spent your 30s instilling and learning all these tools, because it's like building the foundation of a house kind of thing. The storm comes, at least you have that foundation to hold on to. But a lot of people don't even bother to put up any semblance of scaffolding, and then they run for cover the minute it happens. And unfortunately, you're just not going to flourish if that's the case in how you live your life. Obviously, you are in this leadership capacity. So in regards to a temperature check on the ground, what are kind of the most common challenges that come your way that you have to help some of your staff work through these days?
These days, is that a key?
Yeah.
Because it has changed.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting to have been in the industry for years prior. I don't know if we want to blame it on COVID or just
evolution. It always comes up.
Evolution of maybe our growth as humans, okay? I love that we are more independent thinking. I love that we are more self-serving. And I love that we are more intrinsically looking to find our true happiness. I think in our generation and prior, we just kind of did what we were told. We did what we were supposed to do. And people didn't leave their jobs for like 30 years, miserable or not. And so I do love now that people are more intentional with how they live their lives. With that being said, there has been a big shift in, I think, looking at our careers and then looking also at how do we balance that with the things that we're doing outside. And in growing up the way that I did working, there was no balance and there shouldn't be a balance. And the only way to make it in a career, make money, is to just kill yourself working. And I think the shift now, and as a leader, you have to understand this, okay, that more doesn't necessarily mean better. And I strive to encourage my team to have outside passions, to take their time for themselves, because what I have found is we are running a marathon, not a sprint. I want my team to be with me for a long time. I want them genuinely to love what they are doing. I want them to come in every day with the energy and passion and enthusiasm to meet that new member at the front and make that new member feel how Sophia made me feel every single time. We can't do that if we're redlined, if we're exhausted, and if we never do anything outside of work. I have found that my own outside time and my own outside of fitness passions makes me better in my job and when I'm here. And so that has been a really big shift. So I work with my team, and that's a challenge a lot, because a lot of people we work with, all they want to do is do the gym. They want to work out. They want to be in the gym, which is great. A lot of us, our passion is also our job. But I say that can't be all it is, because then you're just going to be running a sprint, and we have to find things that will make this a marathon for you. So that's been a big shift. Other challenges. So in a world now of social media and way less of this communication, we don't talk on the phone anymore. We're texting. We might send an email instead of, running downstairs and having a quick chat. There's much less public speaking and much less like forced human interaction. I think if we can get away with digital, it's easier, it's quicker, it's to the point, and I can, bang out a bunch of conversations in no time.
And some of it, depending on who you are, it's AI banging out conversations, which is just like a whole other level of impersonalization.
Oh, man. So for me, working with my team is a lot of these crucial conversations and just being grounded in the fact that we're humans serving humans. This industry is never going to get replaced by only computers. What we bring to the industry, the gym is the gym, the walls are the walls, the equipment's the equipment. It's us as people. And so we can never lose that ability to have that human connection and that human personalization, right? We call it personal training because it is personal. If you've ever been a personal trainer, you're half trainer, half therapist, just like my hairdresser, right? And so being able to maintain the right professional conversations, the right personal conversations, and when conflict comes up, being able to say, hey, I'm going to have the courage to politely address that and find a resolution rather than, trying to do something on my phone or just dodge it in general. And so I work really hard to keep my personal connection with my team high. I'm very interested in them as humans first and as employees second. And I don't just say that, I truly mean it from my heart. And I think that that's important that we treat our members that way too, right? You're not just a member coming to sign up and a new member unit I can get on the board today. You are the Nastasia that walked in the door after cycling the parking lot 10 times, that's been given this health diagnosis that the pill's not working, and now I have to be here. I don't want to be here. And so I think for us, we can never lose sight as leaders that the first thing we are is people. And we are here to serve when we are in our jobs. I had this huge epiphany, which maybe it's not an epiphany for most of you, but it was for me a couple years ago. And I said, oh my God, the cycle of life as people, we are either serving or being served. That's it in life. Mm-hmm. So when I go out to other places, I'm being served. I get to render the service from another human. And when I am at work in this role, it is my turn to serve. So when we are here to serve, we need to be our best for everybody that walks in that door because it's our turn to give the service. And when you leave your job today, you go to Starbucks, you go sit down and eat, somebody comes and helps fix your air conditioning machine, you are being served. That is the cycle of life. And that human connection will never be replaced. So first and foremost, we have to make our employees feel like humans first and connection to us, that we care and that we're here to help them as people, as leaders, as trainers, like the whole vision of that, right? And that's my job to serve you underneath my leadership so then they can go do that with their team and then our team can go do that with our members, because that is the whole purpose of our job when we are here working, is to be of that service. And so I think it all starts with us, and I think it's the temperament of your leadership. I don't think the things work anymore around high pressure and only driving on results. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a big results driver and I love making money, and I think we're all entitled to that and we should not be embarrassed to talk about it or to want it. But it has to come from the right place. And that place is number one, that we are here to serve our community when we are sitting in this job, in this role. And that's what you're signing up to do when you work in this industry. And it's a very important job.
Well, and I think having that mindset as well, because so many people come on here and speaking to the labor shortages these days or having trouble retaining staff, but it's exactly a philosophy like you're speaking to that can make all the difference. And I think that's where you're seeing the difference between corporate structures that perhaps have stayed married to that old adage and just thinking that the way things were done pre-COVID is going to be the secret sauce to keeping people. And it's just not, because generationally as well, who's coming through, they've grown up in the digital spaces. It's like you almost have to train into them that personalization. Yep. And there is a craving for that as well. Yeah. So once you spark that understanding, I think most people realize, because to your point of saying like serve or be served, it's the same thing when there's humans sharing. It's like an exchange of energy and it's kind of offering space to each other. That's all humans want, to be seen. Yeah. And that's really what you're doing with your teams as well. And I know you're somebody that posts regularly from the fitness world side that fun is a huge part of the culture. Yeah. And I think that sometimes there are companies that seem to tout certain things that they're about, and then there's others that live and breathe it. So why do you feel this has been an effective pillar, and how genuine is it?
Oh my gosh. Okay, this is such a good question, because when I first transitioned into the industry, I worked in a corporate job. And so as a trainer, it served me really well, being highly professional. You will see me, I get ready every day. You'll never see me roll out of bed. You'll never see me look like I work in a gym, because I really respect my position. I respect my team, and I want to show up my best self every day. In the industry, where I had to learn a shift was actually when I became a district manager. And I was having trouble doing everything I just explained to you. I was not connecting with my team. I was very much managing out of a binder, checklist, very kind of corporate. And for my whole first year, it just wasn't working. And my boss kept saying, you need to have fun. You need to have fun. And I was like, we're here to fucking work. Come on, man. I have a job. I have metrics to hit. I get we work in a gym, but this is a job. And I listened to it for an entire year. And what happened to me after that year, I sat down and said, well, where am I going wrong? And I realized I wasn't being authentic to myself of who I truly am as a person. And as a person, I'm extremely bubbly. I'm very fun. I love to talk. I love to do fun things. And I was like, okay, he keeps saying have fun. I'm fun. What if I just let it into the workplace as a genuine, authentic me? Let go of everything I thought a district manager should be and just be me. Maybe being me is good enough. Let's see.
Let's try it on for size.
I do my first month, and some of my I'm still very close friends with the people that worked with me at the time. There's one person in particular. I sat down and I made a fun calendar. True story.
How to take the fun out of fun, but that's actually amazing.
These people say I need to be fun. I'm going to freaking be fun every day. And so I started with a fun calendar because it felt natural to me. It just didn't feel natural to do it at work. And at work with a title.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I said, okay, let me try. So I make the fun calendar, and one weekend it just became natural. And then we were just having fun and doing these cool things. And then at that point I was like, oh my God, I think I have found my stride. And then I started implementing gamification of our goals and implementing these things, and just idea after idea. And really, honestly, I was a spearhead of that in what we do here. And it worked so well, and people took on to it so well that then it just became something we did, right? And of course, our CEO has always been fun. I'm not taking that away. I'm saying from a field level, we really started innovating and doing cool things, and it was totally out of the box and never feels like work. And that's where I feel a little guilty sometimes. I'm like, oh my God, am I really working? Is this too much fun? And I balance that out though. I'm an extremely high achieving person to work for. If you work for me, you're going to know that I like things a certain way. I hold my standard. I have very high expectations. I don't accept mediocrity, but it's in a balance too of that we do cool things and we have a great time and we want everybody to be involved. And so as I started doing these things, I just started watching the teams 2 levels down, 3 levels down, get more and more excited about their jobs, which made me more excited to innovate and think of these cool things to do. And then it's just become a part of the culture. And so I think for me, my biggest takeaway of all of that is just be you. In leadership, and the higher you go, the more you try to regurgitate a book you've read or act like somebody who is having success in the job. If it's genuinely not you and you're not authentic, you're never going to connect with your team and you're not going to have success in your job. People know if you're phony and if you're full of shit.
Yes.
And so for me, I just had to find my way. And that fun part really is just who I am. And so lucky, it works in the industry, which is why I feel like I'm so well placed. I have an employer that allows me to do this crazy stuff, and the team loves it. So I just think that all those things can coexist. And in an old school thinking, and how I was thinking, it's like one or the other, or one can't coexist with the other.
Yes.
And I really look at my best way to drive results with the current team is we have to have a scoreboard because results matter, but we also have to have practice, and practice has to be fun. And I look to gamify and to create cool, fun ways to keep people engaged at that practice. So at the end of the day, we can light up the scoreboard, right? But a game with no practice is going to be a disaster, and practice with no game has no purpose. And so those two things have to live together, which is where the fun and the intensity can be as one. And I think we've just found a really great balance. But your authenticity as a leader, like if it's not you, it's not going to work. So I'm just lucky. It's just me.
But it's good, like lucky, but also recognizing when you're like, oh, this doesn't quite fit because I'm trying to put on.
Yeah.
And we talked about this before we even started today. And it is so true. Number one, you highlight the duality absolutely can exist. Number two, I do think a lot of times when titles are thrown around, it's exactly that. It's internalized. I'm supposed to be like X or Y instead of understanding, I have this because I've earned this, and it's a culmination of my talents.
Yes.
And also a culmination of where leaders can see future growth and an appetite for that in an individual. And then the third thing I love that you highlighted was the layers it went down in your team, because it is that top-down, trickle-down effect.
Yeah.
You said you've worked in corporate. I have as well. And I've blatantly noticed when there's that one thing in the binder that's preached that really isn't something that's lived and breathed and doesn't trickle down. And you know when it feels disjointed. And in a time where labor is a huge challenge and retention of staff can be a huge challenge, not just in this industry, but it is a very real issue within this industry. I think philosophies like that are more important than ever, because at the end of the day, it is this new future that arises up the ranks. And thank God they don't want to do it the same way we did. I mean, when I started my career, if you're sick, bring a bucket. If you're dead, bring a note. That was quite honestly what I was told when I walked in the door. It's taken me a lot of time to unravel that indoctrination out of my soul. And I still find myself caught in those hamster wheels sometimes. But I think it's so important, because you're going to be the thing that makes the future leaders. Yeah. And on the topic of future leaders, women in leadership, I have had many talented women on this podcast that are at high executive levels. However, it is fair to say, and statistically factual, that it is not a 50-50 split at this point. There is still a disparity there. How important do you think it is to cultivate women in leadership within the fitness industry? Because it's underrepresented through and through.
So I'm counting 16 or 17 years in the industry. And I have to tell you, when I first got promoted to sit at a manager table, I was one of two out of, I think it was 26 clubs at that time. There were no females, okay? Like no females. So I have seen the industry actually evolve a lot over the last 16, 17 years. And I think the only way that we are forging that is women coming to the table and seeking those opportunities, getting them, and then doing really well at them. When I came to Canada, I was recruited to come here and work for this chain of clubs. As I was resigning from my previous position, true story, my regional vice president sat me down and said, "Are you sure you want to leave?" And I said, "Yeah, I've pretty much signed the contract and like my bags are packed. I'm going to Canada." And he said, "You are the second highest female ranked leader in the Western Division." And I was like, are you kidding me right now? That we even had to sit the second highest ranked female? Like, what does that even mean? Like, where do I rank amongst everybody? Like, I don't know. I might have been one of two people. I don't even know what it was.
That's actually, and it was like when you say that over and over again, that's
cringing. And I was like, all right, yeah, I'm fucking leaving. Like, see ya. So anyway.
You're like, if my decision wasn't made before, it's you
now
it's for solidifying it.
So, so now coming here, we have an incredibly diverse team. I have to tell you, anybody who's listening to this, please go survey your team in the sense of just look around the room, okay? We're an extremely high-performing team. We have been always. And I think that a huge part of that is that we have massive diversity. And what I mean by diversity is we staff the right people for the job. There is no question around what ethnicity you are, what age you are, what gender you are. I'm also not trying to hit some kind of statistics like some of the larger companies to put these people in. I just look at the people subjectively and I put the best people in role. And what's happened? We have half of our leadership team that are females, half that are males, tons of foreigners, tons of different ideas, tons of different groups. And when you create that diversity on your team, you need that. I say a team is built not off of 15 Nastasias. I don't need 15 of me, okay? We'd all go crazy. I need a pizza that each of us is a slice and we're all filling some kind of valuable role on the team. I want people that are going to push my thinking. I want people that are going to be better at me at science. I want people that are going to be brilliant at the next innovation. I want people who are highly analytical and listen a little better than I do. I want expressive people. I want all different kinds of people on my team. I never, ever, ever want to staff to fit one kind of checklist. And I've worked in a company that it was that literally if you didn't, or like when you apply to go to university, if you don't have these grades and this mark on your test, you can't get in. I mean, that's almost how my previous entity was staffed. And so for me, that's not how I look and how any of us look at staffing. And if you truly interview people for who they are and look at their strengths, you will find that there are so many incredible people and females out there that can bring so much value to your team. I think that our team is built of a perfect yin and yang, and that my personality brings something to the table that maybe my partner's doesn't, and his brings something to the table that maybe I'm lacking, and together we are a perfect unit. To get women in leadership, you have to have women in leadership. I was pulled aside on a recent trip and one of my managers said, "You're my biggest," I'll cry now. She said, "You're my biggest inspiration." And
You're
she said,
Sophia.
She said, "Until you came, I didn't think I could do that job." So just like when we look at our children and women being represented in all kinds of jobs, when they see it, then they believe that they can achieve that too. And so it's like, so how do we get more people? It's just this right here. And doing a great job at that and connecting at a level that makes people want to be like you, and you making your position feel attainable for them as well. Because I am just human, you know? So we go back to that whole conversation about we're all just people. I never want my role to be intimidating. I never want my title to be something to where I'm holding power or force over you. I want to be here as your guide. I want to be here as your support. I want to be here as your inspiration that you can look up and say, "Oh my God, I can do that job." I never want any other female to look at me and say, "I could never do that," right? And so I think that's how we build more people. So to the manager, who's still my boss today, that promoted me when there were no other females, I am always looking for the best candidate. And oftentimes when I look, it is the female that's the best. And I'll always promote whoever's the best. You don't get suppressed, and you also don't get like privilege just because you're a certain ethnicity or gender or whatever. I just take the best people. And when you do that, you'll find diversity on your team.
It's so important that representation matters. And I just love that you got that feedback of what it meant, because I know for yourself in your career, obviously you've had mentors that have seen that spark and that ambition within yourself and fostered it and provided those tools and given promotions at times where absolutely you had the skill set and potential, but in your own words being like, "I don't know if I'm quite ready." And them seeing you may not have all the things yet, but we know that it's in you and we'll help you grow that. And I know that you're very much doing that for all of those on your team and all of those yet to come. And I really appreciate through your story today, we are going to track down Sophia. To me now, I'm like, I can get creepy on the internet. I can get so creepy on the internet. I'm like, I'm going to find this person, track them down, because I hope that we can let them know for that same emotion that you're feeling from that interaction. I imagine they would have a similar sentiment because it is so powerful when we are able to show that humanness and that connectedness. And at the end, most of us want to be seen. Most of us want to do good. Most of us want to contribute something positive to this world. And I think that's everything that this industry exemplifies in such this big way. But lastly, I just kind of want you to leave us. I always love to fuel people's day with a little nugget of wisdom or a mantra. So is there a little favorite that you could toast us with to fuel our day?
Okay, this is going to be deep. I don't know about like one, again, large learning for me, which I hope I can leave you with. At the end of the day, I firmly believe you can literally achieve and attract anything you want. And it's not just rhetoric. I live it. I feel it in my soul. But something I have learned is for the right things to come to you, you need to let go of the things that are asking to leave you. And at times that might not make sense to us. It may feel difficult. It may feel confusing, but we're all destined for huge things. And I think that we all have major value to bring to this world, to each other, to our small communities, to our larger communities. And the universe works in a way that is working for you if you allow it. But it won't be able to work for you if you don't let the things go that just need to go. Okay? So when we're talking about our careers or our industry, just don't resist. Don't resist the things that maybe you lost a client today. It's okay. Maybe they weren't ready. And maybe as soon as that client walks out, then the me client walks in, right? You have to open up space for the things to come to you. And so when we talk about those doors opening, they are absolutely waiting to open for you. All the time in life and work, allow them to open. Let the things go that need to go so the right things can come in. And that flow is going to be cyclical like forever. And I think if we can start to learn that and support each other in that, then in general, we lift each other up and we all become better and can offer each other more and serve each other on a higher level. So if things are asking to leave you, let them go. So the things that are asking to come can just come in. And that's ultimately how I landed back here.
Oh, I love the roundabout, Nastasia. Thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation today. And as I say, just keep speaking to it because there's so much power in our individual stories. And I know that you've been inspired by many, and that's kind of how I fuel myself as well. That is a gift, though, to be able to do that. And I know you recognize that. So thank you for being such an inspiration to the future leaders.
Well, and thank you for having me, and thank you for listening.
Yay. You've just listened to the All Things Fitness and Wellness podcast, hosted by Chrissy Van. This episode was brought to you by Fitness World, your fitness, your way. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry insiders and influencers. Together, we're on a mission for everyone to live a life fit and well.